Hi, welcome to Hyperion Hype Club. My name is McKenna and I love the Kingdom Keepers books by Ridley Pearson. Join me as we discuss this series and others published by Disney-Hyperion Books. Let's get into it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of Hyperion Hype Club. In this episode, we'll be going over chapters 60 through 70 of Peter and the Starcatchers by Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson. So just a quick little catch-up to start. I had so much fun with my sister and our mutual friends this week as they came into town for our friend's bachelorette party or bachelorette trip. I worked over the weekend, so I didn't really go to the trip, but I still spent time with them. I helped them get into the house the first day that the Airbnb that they rented. And like as they went to the vineyard, I went to pick up groceries and then I went to join them at some other vineyards and just came back, hung by the pool, and got less than 5 hours of sleep before I had to be at work the next morning. But it was worth it. That stuff usually isn't worth it for me, but yeah, for those people, it's worth it. Then later today, I'm going to check out the Ben and Jerry's like non-dairy, creamy, dreamy ice cream tour or whatever, because they're in Atlanta this week. I think they're in Raleigh next week, and then they're in DC, Boston, and ending in Burlington, Vermont, which is their home. I'll update you guys on how it goes next week. I mean, it's free to go, so like, why not if you're in any of those places? But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the captain's log for chapters 60 through 70. The mermaids have human teeth now. Slink and Little Richard flew the longboat into the cave where the mermaids were keeping the trunk and fought them for possession of it, almost killing their teacher, quote unquote, or almost killing their quote teacher, unquote. In the midst of the battle, the trunk drifted off. Blackstash and crew headed toward the sounds of fighting, figuring the trunk must be the reason for it. Instead of waiting for the other good guys, Peter headed off down the beach toward the longboat. He found the injured mermaid, aka the teacher, and used his shirt as a bandage for her wounded head. Slink and Little Richard spotted Peter, and Little Richard knocked him unconscious before taking the trunk for himself and Slink. The other good guys, guided by made it around the point. Before the teacher mermaid resuscitates him, Peter's thoughts linger on how it'd be nice to kiss Molly. So I'm guessing there's going to be a kiss by the end of the book. Slink and Little Richard make progress in getting the trunk open so they can use the star stuff to avoid the mermaids by flying back to the Jolly Roger. Then the pirates jumped them and tied them up. Slank used the puff of star stuff on the beach to undo the knots around his arms, displaying that he clearly has experience with star stuff. As the pirates made for the Jolly Roger, the mermaids attacked the longboat. I don't know why or when the mermaids let go of the trunk, but somehow Slank and Little Richard got it again. Then, when and the good guys minus Peter attacked Slank and Little Richard, Peter and the mermaids got the trunk. During all of that, Slank revealed that he works for King Zarboff III. In exchange, yes, Steph. In exchange for the lives of the others, Peter and the mermaids agreed to let Slank and Little Richard take the trunk back to the Jolly Roger undisturbed. Slank said they'd get Molly back once he safely got back to the ship, but that was obviously BS. The pirates thought they were about to be lost at sea before discovering they were over a sandbar and could walk back to safety. But just by the way, sandbars. Sharks like sandbars. Sharks like to swim between sandbars because that's where they corral their fish. Just putting that out there. So for references, nothing other than now we know why Peter is the only human the mermaids seem to be fond of in the original book/play and the Disney movie. Well, did we really see that in the Disney movie? I guess kind of. Anyway, they saved each other and he has this odd communication connection with the teacher mermaid. Now on to random thoughts. Okay, wow, 6 bullet points this time. Not as many as usual. Peter's distant memory of who may have been his mother is sad, of course. I can't imagine growing up without knowing what it's like to have a parent care for you. Anyway, moving on. I like how Smee points out the classic villain cliche of not killing the heroes when you have the chance because you assume they're as good as dead. Later, Slank talks about how he won't be tricked into that cliche. However, Slank then fell victim to the villain monologue cliche, which is when Peter and the mermaids got hold of the trunk. The book says that weighs 567.5 pounds. While that is at the lower end of the weight range of the Atlantic white-sided dolphins, is a porpoise, and the only porpoise species in the North Atlantic Ocean is the Atlantic porpoise, also known as the harbor porpoise. Adult harbor porpoises weigh 110 to 330 pounds. Even the heaviest porpoise species, the Dall's porpoise, only gets up to 490 pounds. So, as a biology nerd, I've got to fact check them on this. Another bio nerd fact check is that air is expelled from the blowholes. Water cannot be blasted out of one like it was out of Alms. Okay, next, Molly was violent, bashing Slank's skull with a coconut. I mean, seriously, girl. Also, the way she handles having a knife at her throat is so mature. Like, she is a boss for sure. Lastly, Slank mentioned how King Z3 loves pretty girls, and it makes me think back to why Mrs. Bumbrake was taken aboard the Jolly Roger earlier. For a middle grade book, these authors don't shy away from telling their audience how women are viewed as objects. However, hopefully it puts it into their minds that that is indeed a negative thing. All right, so how am I enjoying this book so far? I feel like the pace picked up a decent bit in this section, although we didn't really cover much ground. All of it was in and just around the lagoon and involved the trunk exchanging hands a whole heck of a lot. I mean, we still have the last section to go. That's always the section where some books really turn it around. But I don't know, will it live up to the hype it had when I was younger and has continued to have in my mind? I'm not so sure at this point. Not really. It's just good. I guess all that's left to do now is enjoy the last section of the book, which we will cover next week. The chapters for that section are 71 through 79. So let's finish this thing. See you real soon.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and follow. Also, please chat with me and other members of this club in the comments of the YouTube video. My other social media information and a link to the Long Distance Sisters podcast I am also part of will be below. Back in a whack.